VocalEye Almost Live Zoom, Barbie World, hosted by Christine Malec, with special guest J.J. Hunt.
Welcome to this VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Christine Malec, and I'm the guest host this evening. Amy is in Ottawa presenting some of her art. We want to extend a big thank you to the donation and support from all of you. This program is free of charge, and so it means a lot to us to see the effect that it has on people, all of our participants. If you're in a position to make a financial contribution, we invite you to click on the link that will be in the chat. Or to visit the website. But it's also really useful and helpful for us to get letters of support and testimonials because they help us with fundraising and grants, and they're super valuable to the VocalEye team. If you're watching this event on our YouTube channel, we hope that you will like and subscribe. Coming up in the next few weeks, on February 14th, there will be no program, so happy Valentine's Day. February 21st is TBA, to be announced. That will be a surprise. And on February 28th, I'm making air quotes, sighted people suck. Close air quotes. I didn't say that. That's just what's coming up. VocalEye is broadcasting to you all from the traditional and unceded lands of the Salish peoples, but I'm hosting from Toronto. The land I occupy as I speak to you is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. It's also home to people like me who want to live mindfully and gratefully. Tonight, as we consider Barbie, we can't help but consider women's reality in our world. Where do we look for strength? In many Indigenous traditions, Deer Woman is a supernatural being who appears in many guises. In her benevolent form, she's concerned with fertility and the proper selection of a mate. In her darker aspect, she's the vengeful one, the woman wronged, who will use her power to lure promiscuous or violent men to their deaths. Like other supernatural figures, her role is to carry wisdom and knowledge through the generations. In her, perhaps, can be found a protector, a model of women's power, an avenger. Tonight, as we consider one of our own female culture heroes, we may do so with the image of Dear Woman dancing watchfully at the edges of our group, alive, alert, and potent. It's Wednesday, February the 7th, 2024, and tonight, VocalEye is proud to bring you our Almost Live event number 143. Tonight, it's Barbie World all night long. Let's welcome in JJ Hunt, who is joining us also from Toronto, an audio describer and frequent welcome guest on VocalEye. Welcome, JJ.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. JJ and I are so lucky that we get to work together on a lot of different projects. And so we have to sort of rein ourselves in because once we get talking, we'll just keep talking and talking and talking. So,
Yeah,
so JJ, last time you were here in the VocalEye space, you were in Mexico. Is that right?
yes, I was dialing in from an Airbnb in Oaxaca, Mexico, but I'm back home now in my regular basement lair. Not quite as bedecked in pink as you are. I love the pink tea.
Well,
That's one.
thank you, thank you. I did have to comb just a little bit. My wardrobe has a lot of blue in it, so I had to dig for the pink, but I managed to do that. So in TO, back in your lair, what has your work life been like since you got back? What kind of projects are you working on?
Oh, got all kinds of things going on. A little bit of Luminato that we're working on together. So we're starting to set things up for Luminato, which is great. Got some training that's underway. Got some work with the Cooper Hewitt Museum in New York. And, all those irons in all those different fires. But really, for the last few weeks, it's been like all Barbie all the time. Whatever project I've been working on, every time I go for a walk, there's, just in the back of my mind, there's just a little bit like, how would I describe that element of Barbie? Or what about this? Oh, I can't forget to mention this part of Barbie. This is such, this movie is just so rich and so dense with visuals that are with lots of cultural connections and interpretations of toys into real action. There's just so much material in Barbie that it really has been the kind of back of my mind project for the last several weeks. How about you?
Yeah, well, we have this funny little text thing where I will text you, "Hey, we've got to remember to mention this," or you'd say, "Oh, how about
Yeah.
that?" And it's true, it's been at the back of my mind also. And the for me, it's sort of more the cultural aspects and things that I think about in where the whole movie fits into, you know, thoughts about women in popular culture, women in society. So for sure, I've been doing lots of thinking and yeah, hypothesizing about that. Um, Also working on Luminato, which is a Toronto-based arts festival in June. So JJ and I are two of the collaborators for something called Radio Lumi, which is the audio-only experience of the festival. So those those pieces are starting to get rolling, which are pretty exciting because they cover a lot of different things. Dance, live theater, music. So before the recording started, we were all just chatting, and I was saying how lucky I feel because a lot of my work is consulting for audio describers who are doing live theater in Toronto. So I should start, I'm going to start adding this up. How much live theater do I get to check out for free because I'm going as a consultant? So the other night I attended, as a consultant, I attended an audio described performance of a dance piece that was based on another dance piece that was based on the opera Carmen. And so I got to go down to Front Street, which is sort of the entertainment district in Toronto, and I got all dolled up. I put on like a nice dress and tights with feet in them and everything, and lots of bling, and it was pretty great. I'm like, hey, I'm going to a really nice theater for a great show. I'm gonna really doll it up, so get to wear my nice clothes and do that fun stuff. Um, I one of the things that I remember texting you about was we got to remember to say this, which is that when so the Barbie movie is available with audio description, which is groovy, and we're going to talk more about that. It's on Crave and it's also on Apple TV as a rental. And when you watch it, they do something that's very slick and professional, which is they don't compromise the 5.1 audio surround sound deal. Because as some of you will know, when some things get audio described, the whole audio track just gets squeezed into like not mono, but the
Yeah.
excellent elements of audio sometimes get lost when they add the description track. So um, when you watch it, if you have a good sound system or a good set of headphones, you will get that the audio description track does not take away from the audio. Uh, JJ and I actually watched it together. Without we had seen it before, but we both I needed a rewatch for sure, and I think JJ was taking notes. So we watched it with a really nice surround sound system, and it was pretty good sound, eh, JJ?
Oh, it was great. It is appreciated, especially in a movie like this where they're paying a lot of attention to the soundtrack. They are using it in lots of musical numbers, and so I was happy to have that. That's not something of course, I deal with very often. Most of the description that I deal with is I'm the one writing it, so I'm not
Yeah.
listening to it in the consumer product as often. So uh, I've very much appreciated, especially for a movie like this. This was Barbie was along with Oppenheimer, like the movie of 2023.
Yeah,
Such a big deal. So
huge.
you want to do it right, and. Yeah, I'm really glad that it's available with audio description, not only in theaters when the theaters, you know, present that properly and with all the equipment in working order, But like you say, available with description on streaming and for rent, which means that when we do a project like this, we have to, or we can approach it a little bit differently because that base accessibility is already covered. So now we get to dive in and we get to go deep. And there's so many amazing, rich visuals with this film that we could easily fill 2 or 3 hours with description of the details, the visuals in this film. But we don't have quite that much time. So we should probably just dive right in with what we've got. What do
Start
you think?
right in. I want to ask you one more question before we
Please.
do. Do you ever turn on audio description when you're watching stuff for fun at home? Is that something you would ever do?
I do a little bit here and there. I mean, I do for some practical reasons. Like, frankly, if I'm folding laundry and I got the TV on, I'm a description user in there. But also for work. Like, I want to
Mhm.
hear what people are doing. I want to hear, especially, frankly, when friends say, "Oh God, the description in this was really fantastic," or
Mm.
it happens less and less these days that someone says, "Oh, the description was terrible. Have you heard this show?" It doesn't happen as often. But yeah, I do want to keep up and see what my colleagues are doing and the choices that they're making, both in terms of language and pacing and also movies are just becoming more dynamic in their presentation styles. So some of the things that were patterns that you would see in filmmaking 10 or 15 years ago are changing and shifting. And so we don't have as many of the standard patterns like establishing shot and then a two shot and then two people talk for a while and then you get the next establishing shot. There's a rhythm to that description that is interrupted when you have filmmaking that's really dynamic and layered and split screens. And so how do you deal with all that? Well, you gotta pay attention to what other describers are doing. That's kind of the best way to learn.
Interesting. So, yeah, tonight it's Barbie World, Barbie all the time. And when I first heard about the Barbie movie coming out, I was so not interested. To me, it was in the category of like a superhero film or the Emoji Movie or, something like why am I interested in that? And it just didn't go away. And
Yeah.
eventually, the reason I went to see it was because it was so huge and
Yeah.
because it was about women's issues. The more I read about it, like, oh, this movie is having some impact. I don't know what the impact is or why or whether it's valid or warranted, but this is too huge for me to ignore. And
Yeah.
that's honestly the reason why why I was there. I think it was the day before the end of the run, or it might have been the last day of the run. And so unfortunately, it was me and maybe 8 other people in the theater. So I'm sorry that I kind of sorry that I missed the experience of seeing it in a theater because apparently some of the crowd reactions were, interesting to hear
Yeah.
about. So I'm just going to give a bit of a framework for how we're going to approach this. We're going to talk about a bit of an intro to the film. Then we're going to talk about Barbie through the ages as a phenomenon, as the doll and the whole institution of Barbie. We're going to talk about the characters, sets, and costumes, and uncover maybe a few hidden visuals. Then we're going to talk about the color pink because you can't talk about Barbie and women and without pink. And at the end, we're going to watch a little behind the scenes video. So, JJ, where should we start to introduce the film?
Well, I mean, most of us have seen the movie, but it might have been a while. Maybe some folks haven't caught it yet and are hoping that this is going to give them a little bit of a primer before they go into it. So just to help the conversation along, let's start with like a really quick synopsis of the film, just so we're all on the same page. Of course, Barbie stars Margot Robbie, who also produced the film. She is stereotypical Barbie. Ryan Gosling as Ken. And this movie, Barbie, is really about their journeys of self-discovery in Barbieland and in the real world. I heard it described by one critic as a meta existential beach musical, which I thought was pretty good.
Wow.
Um, Yeah, so Barbie is living her perfect life in Barbieland, surrounded by all the other Barbies and all the Kens. And life is wonderful, life's fantastic, but then she starts to experience some real life problems, which is unusual in Barbieland. She has bad breath. She discovers some cellulite. Her feet go flat, and she starts to worry about mortality. These are all very un-Barbie things. So she seeks help from the only person who she can find, who has knowledge of these kinds of problems. That's Weird Barbie. Weird Barbie is the oddball, kind of disfigured, experimented on doll that got played with too hard. And she's informed that the cure to all of these problems lies with the child who is playing with her. So she has to travel to the real world and find that child. So Barbie leaves Barbieland. Ken stows away with her. And then in the real world, Barbie discovers that her influence on girls and women hasn't been universally positive, and that the makers of Barbie at the Mattel Corporation are really not all that fantastic. Meanwhile, Ken in the real world is discovering that he's been missing out on all of the wonders of the patriarchy. So Ken hurries back to Barbieland. He takes over according to his new understanding of real world social dynamics. Barbie has to hurry back and has to retake Barbieland from the Kens with the help of all the other Barbies and some friends from the real world. So that's kind of the general synopsis to get us kind of hyped up for the movie. Of course, a lot of what sighted folks do when they're getting ready for a movie, to things that get them excited, is watching the trailer. We always get these trailers. They show us all the juicy, details and little teasers to get us going. But trailers are notoriously inaccessible. They're very hard to describe. But lucky for us, a describer named Izzy posted a video on YouTube in August of 2023. This is a described version of the Barbie trailer that she recorded for an accessible cinema course at DePaul University in Chicago. And I think we might actually have some folks from DePaul University here on the call with us. If so, hello, hello. So we're going to play the first 2 minutes of Izzy's description. This is the inline description that they recorded. It's worth noting that Izzy does continue for another 15 minutes doing an extended description of the trailer. So if that's something you're interested in, let us know. We can post a link to the video after at the end of the call. We're just going to play the first 2 minutes of that video. This is the described trailer. Thanks to Izzy in the accessible cinema course at DePaul University. So Rick, if you've got that queued up, let her rip.
Hello, I'm Izzy, and today I'm going to be describing the Barbie movie trailer. First, I'll describe the trailer in real time, and then I'll do an expanded description. Warner Brothers logo in pink and white, an aerial view of heart-shaped Barbieland, a pink plane soars by. A close-up of Barbie's pink stilettos. She steps out of the shoes, standing barefoot as if still in heels. Margot Robbie as Barbie strolls along a pink sand beach.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken!
Greetings are volleyed between multiple Barbies and Kens.
Hi, Barbie! Hi, Barbie! Hi, Barbie! Hi, Barbie! Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken!
Hi, Ken.
Barbie's adventures take her increasingly far from home. She cruises out of Barbieland in her pink convertible. Under street lamps, Ryan Gosling as Ken smiles at Barbie.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend-boyfriend.
To do what?
I'm actually not sure.
Barbie dances on a shiny stage, leads a secret mission, and sings while driving her car. In a chaotic fight on the beach, Simu Liu as Ken number 2 weaponizes a pool float. President Barbie rallies support.
Okay, ladies, let's do this!
Margot Robbie. Barbie strides into a boardroom, greeted by Mattel's awestruck CEO. Ryan Gosling. Ken winks at Barbie, then defeats Ken number 2 at rock, paper, scissors. Outside Barbieland, Barbie drives by a billboard, real world this way. Barbie's car tumbles through the air. After it lands, Barbie whips around at Ken in frustrated shock.
What are you doing here?
I'm coming with you.
Did you bring your rollerblades?
Neon plastic.
I literally go nowhere without them.
Back on the beach, Ken and Ken number 2 verbally spar.
Oh, looks like this beach was a little too much beach for you, Ken.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken. Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beat both of you off at the same time.
Beach both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
Only in theaters July 21st. Based on Barbie by Mattel. Written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. Directed by Greta Gerwig.
Fantastic. Nicely done, Izzy. And truly, describing trailers is so difficult. There's just so much to get to try and squeeze in. And honestly, for this whole film, the describers did an admirable job given the time that they had allotted to them. It's a real challenge to describe a movie with this much action, this much activity, this level of visual detail. I bet it was fun to do for the describers, but it probably also left the describers a little bit brokenhearted, because as a describer how much description you're leaving on the table, how much you're not able to get in, and it can be kind of gut wrenching to leave out important visual information. So kudos to all the describers involved in getting this out as best they can.
It's true. After you and I watched it together, I had really probing questions that took a long time to answer because there's so much visual language in the film, and some of it is just speaking to emotion because um, these are images and icons that people grow up with, especially girls, and they're part of your sort of emotional language. And it took some unpacking for me to sort of
Yeah.
get the eye candy relaxing aspect of just looking at things that had a familiarity to them because they're from childhood. And I think that's kind of where we're maybe going to go, JJ, is to talk about Barbie through the ages as like what led to this movie to be what it is, and what has Barbie meant in
Yeah.
the preceding decades.
Exactly. Everything we're going to talk about tonight kind of requires a basic understanding of the visuals of the original toy, right? Because that's what this is all about. Without the toy, we have no movie. That's what we're trying to capture is the what we all loved about the Barbie doll, or still love about the Barbie doll. That's what the movie's going for. So all of the Barbies, all of the houses, the dresses, the accessories. It's one of the reasons the film was successful was because it translated those nostalgic triggers from a tactile, hands on, playful thing, a toy, into a passive kind of hands off experience of watching a movie. So let's start with a little Barbie 101. Most of us probably have a reasonably good sense of what a Barbie doll is. Probably a lot of us have played or held one at some point. But just a reminder, standard, or in the movie, what they call stereotypical Barbie, meaning the original doll that most of us think of, was tall and thin with an original height of 11.5 inches, which would be about 5'9" at scale. And the corresponding human measurements of that doll would be a 36-inch bust, an 18-inch waist, and 33-inch hips. So tall and thin with some curves. Particularly long neck on Barbie, famously raised heels because she only used to wear high heels. And if she were human, I would say the original Barbie doll has light skin tone, but these days Barbie comes in a range of skin tones. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Barbie's facial features are molded, so her face has a molded nose, for example, some slight divots for the eyes, but then the details are painted on. So the oversized eyes painted on, tremendous amounts of hair, depending on the doll, because each doll is a little bit different, but lots and lots of hair. These days, the hair colors and textures, there's a variety of different hair textures and hair colors, though they do tend to still lean toward the long, straight, or wavy hair with a silky texture. There are some dolls that have tight afro textured curls, but not as many as the standard Barbie, tall blonde and thin Barbie. 1959 was when the first Barbie doll was introduced, and they had some slightly different proportions and features for the face than we see now. Large, wide forehead that tapered down toward the eyes, pointed eyebrows, kind of like a peaked roof, doot, doot, right? Almond-shaped eyes that were drawn on with heavy black lines. So it looked like lots of heavy eye makeup. And the first Barbies actually were gazing down and to the side. So she had kind of permanent side eye, which is an interesting choice. I think some people would have a political read on Barbie not looking directly at you, but always looking away, perhaps demurely. A thin pointed nose, narrow, plump red lips. And the first Barbie, 1959, came in either blonde or brunette. And she was marketed as a teenage fashion model. So lots of the clothes she originally had were based on the idea that she was a teenage fashion model. We actually found the first Barbie commercial on YouTube. This is a Barbie commercial that aired during the Mickey Mouse Club. It's a black and white commercial. It's really quite blurry. The details are a little bit hard to make out. And it starts with 4 Barbies in different dresses standing on a curving staircase. And then a hand, like supposed to be a kid's hand, reaches in and picks up one of the dolls. More outfits are shown. Some, like all the different Barbies, are wearing different outfits. And different, there's a brunette version of the doll that's shown. And then some accessories float behind the doll. This is really kind of clever. There are no special effects. This is 1959 television. So what they did was they stuck pieces of Barbie clothing onto a clear plastic disc behind the doll and then slowly rotate it. So it looks like these Barbie clothes are just kind of floating behind her. And then at the end of the commercial, the song lyric says, "Someday I'm going to be exactly like you." And the camera zooms in on Barbie in a wedding dress. So this is the first Barbie commercial from 1959. Rick, take it away, my friend.
Barbie, you're beautiful. You make me feel my Barbie doll is really real. Barbie's small and so petite. Her clothes and figure look so neat. Her dancing outfit rings the bell. At parties she will cast a spell. Purses, hats, and gloves galore. And all the gadgets gals adore.
Barbie dressed for swim and fun is only $3. Her lovely fashions range from $1 to $5. Look for Barbie wherever dolls are sold.
Someday I'm gonna be exactly like you. Till then I know just what I'll do. Barbie, beautiful Barbie, I'll make believe that I am you.
You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
It's swell.
It's swell, Chris.
Swell. Who says swell anymore?
Well, me, but you know.
Well, you actually do say swell.
So then in the 1960s, Barbie gets a new haircut, a blonde bubble cut. So really round on top, curving down over the ears, kind of helmet-like. Her lips went from red to pink, and Barbie met Ken in the 60s. So lots of accessories for the new couple. There's a new dream home. There's full wardrobes. Interestingly, I read that Barbie's first house only had a single bed. So Ken didn't officially live there. It also didn't have a kitchen, I read, which was pretty radical for a doll. That was kind of one of the primary things you were supposed to do with a doll was teach them how to cook. And so to not have a kitchen in the first Barbie dream home, I think is kind of interesting. Then through the, as the 60s move on, we move into the mod era. So Barbie starts getting straight or only slightly fitted mini dresses, knee-high boots, lots of synthetic fabrics and colorful patterns. Her hair becomes longer and straighter. Her eyes grow wider. And for the first time, she looks straight ahead. She doesn't just look down and demurely, she starts looking straight ahead. Also, in the 1960s, we get our first black Barbie. But this black Barbie was made in the same mold as the existing doll. So she had the same features, the exact same body. They just made the same doll in a darker brown plastic. And her name was, apologies in advance, Colored Francie. That was the name of the first black Barbie doll. We move into the 1970s. Barbie becomes a hippie. She gets long, wavy hair. Malibu Barbie hits the scene. In Malibu Barbie, this is a Barbie doll with a blonde girl tan and long, straight blonde hair. Strangely, she's got like this slightly baggy one-piece blue swimsuit. I guess they didn't have the the tech in the 70s to make a really skin tight, like spandex suit, bathing suit for the doll. So it's kind of a little bit baggy. Her eyes are no longer drawn in the 70s with heavy black lines that look like eyeliner. Instead, she has a more natural look with long lashes. So I don't know how natural that actually is, but that was the intention. And then in the 70s, we get more careers. So Barbie's often been, the accessories have been about careers, what job she had. So in 65, she was already made an astronaut well before women were actually allowed to be astronauts in the space program. Barbie was an astronaut in 65, but in the 70s, she becomes a downhill skier, a flight attendant, Miss America. She's a ballerina in a tiny puffy tutu, and she even becomes a surgeon, where she's given a nice mini-skirted powder blue scrubs that show off her nice long gams. We actually have a commercial of the Malibu Barbie. This is a color commercial because we're in the 70s now, but the color is really washed out and kind of faded. Couple of little girls with tanned light skin tone playing on the beach with their Barbie dolls. At one point, the groovy new fashions are mentioned, and there's a quick shot of 3 women dolls and Ken. One of the women dolls, I'm not sure they're all Barbies, one of them wears a yellow poncho with striped leggings, and Ken, his groovy new fashion is a burnt orange slacks and a vest. Sweet. I wish I had that look right now. So Rick, if you've got the Malibu Barbie commercial queued up, that would be great.
What's new under the sun? Malibu Barbie.
She's Mattel's super new suntanned Barbie.
Hey, Barbie's got a golden tan now. With sunny super gold hair.
Malibu Barbie has her own beach towel and sunglasses and Malibu friends, all with that suntanned skin that makes them look great wherever they go, in any of their groovy new fashions.
They're what's new under the sun.
Malibu Barbie, Francie, Skipper, and Ken. They're the Sunset. Dolls and other costumes sold separately.
Yeah.
Isn't that so cute? Okay, so I'm like totally obsessing about the fact there was an astronaut Barbie. That is pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
That is
It was a
pretty.
sweet outfit too. I think it was silver, like a silver metallic outfit. I think she had big brown boots. I might be mistaken. We're gonna see a clip later on that has those boots in it, so I'll double check. Yeah, yeah. Astronaut Barbie was pretty wicked.
So
Um,
all of that stuff they've drawn on in the movie, right? So that's kind of like a visual record that they could draw on in the movie.
Absolutely. All of the fashions, all of the vehicles, all of the houses, all of the things from the movie come directly from the toys. So every single one of the things we're mentioning, the hairstyles, the dress styles, the accessories, that's the fodder for the filmmakers. They used all of it. And really, when we get into the 80s, we start getting more and more of that, I think, because the 80s is for a lot of us folks who are of our generation. The 80s is when we start to remember our dolls. And so they leaned really heavily on the visuals from the 1980s and 90s, late 70s, 80s, and 90s, because they want to sell to us and they want to sell to our kids simultaneously. And so the 80s, the trends of the bright colors, the flashy patterns, they really leaned into that in the movie. And of course, in the 80s, like this is the age of conspicuous consumption, right? So there are a lot of accessories for Barbie in the 80s. Everything got bigger, right? Her hair got bigger, her makeup, her color choices, big, bold, big puffy sleeves. And so that's getting sold through the Barbie movie. The 80s is actually also when we get the first genuine African-American Barbie. They made a new mold. This Barbie had tight black corkscrew curls and brown skin tone. They also had an Hispanic Barbie in the 1980s. Brown eyes, darker beige skin tone on this doll. Yeah, so we're moving toward what a lot of the Barbies that we know. The 1990s, more diverse in terms of racial representation, more clothing and style options, more career choices. In 1998, they changed standard Barbie's new body. Her waist got slightly larger, her chest and hips slightly smaller, And in 1998, she got a joint in her ankles so she could finally go flat footed and wear shoes without heels. That's the 80s, or pardon me, the 90s. And then in the 2000s, they moved closer again to being more natural. So the eye makeup is toned down again. She gets a belly button. Her chest gets smaller once again. And now she gets a bum because she hasn't actually had a proper curvy bum before, but they give her one in the 2000s. And then 2016, Barbie starts to come in all new sizes, petites, tall, and curvy. They add 22 different eye colors, 33 different hairstyles. This is all an attempt to make her universally inclusive. And while that looks really great on paper, I'm not sure that diversity that is technically available actually is represented on toy shelves. If you go to the store, I think you're still going to find more tall, thin, blonde Barbies. Certainly in the commercials, the tall, thin, blonde Barbie still dominates. That's still the look of the standard classic Barbie. So all of this, the key takeaways to this recap of the toys, regardless of era, Barbie and her accessories are always plastic, right? This plastic doll, the feel of the plastic, the look of the glossy plastic, the fabric of her clothing, even that is usually synthetic. Lots of plastic colors, bright, bright, bright colors. And the doll movements are generally fairly stiff. And again, from very early on, they lean toward pinks and bright colors. All of that is like I said, fodder for the movie. That's what they're basing the visuals of the Barbie movie on.
No, I didn't get this so much when I watched it with audio description. It was more in talking with people about it, which is the transition when she goes from Barbieland into the real world. And the audio description sort of talks about the oddities of Barbie Land, and I go, okay, that's unusual, or yeah, that's playful. But you kind of talked about it like as a Wizard of Oz-ish moment where you go from black and white to Technicolor or whatever the thing is. So it was kind of hard for me as a totally blind person to get the impact of that transition from Barbie Land to the real world.
Yeah, it was tough, and that was one of the moments in the film that I thought, oh, there hasn't been enough time, there hasn't been enough space in the dialogue. There hasn't been enough gap between the quick dialogue, the music, the lyrics, and the existing narrator, Helen Mirren. There hasn't been enough time for the describer to establish just how glossy and plastic the look of Barbie Land is. And so then when you transition into the real world, that contrast just hasn't been made clear. And this is one of the things that makes this movie so special. One of the first things that any budding film nerd learns about in film school is the mise en scène, right? Which loosely translates to what is put on the screen. It's basically a fancy way of saying all of the visual elements, the sets, the costumes, the props, and the lighting, so the production design, but also the composition, the camera angles, the performance style. And all of those things are, on some level, of course, important to every filmmaker. It doesn't matter if you're making a TV sitcom or a game show or a drama movie, it doesn't matter. Those things should be of some importance to all filmmakers. But in cases like this movie, in the Barbie movie, filmmakers really lean into this idea of everything that's on the screen should be used to create a different world, or a unique aesthetic. And in Barbie Land, they really created this unique world using the toys of our childhood. They took the colors, the fashions, the accessories, the plastics, and they brought it all to life in a cohesive, stylized way. So this movie actually takes a lot of its cues from old Technicolor musicals. The sets, the costumes, even the acting in musicals, they don't look natural, right? They're heightened. And for Barbie, they tried to use a lot of the same visual techniques to create their heightened land of Barbie Land, right? In interviews, I saw writer and director Greta Gerwig talking about aiming for authentic artificiality or tangible artifice. I love both of those terms. her meaning was that everything on set was supposed to be tangible. So real practical buildings, painted backdrops, not as much in the CGI department. They wanted everything to be based in reality. But not real houses, not real skylines. They weren't going to film an actual house or go and film outside in the real world. They used practical elements, and then but made them out of artificial colors, plastic textures, and unrealistic styles. So this is, again, because they wanted everything tactile and real. The Barbie Malibu dream home in the movie had to feel like the house that you put your doll into. And then, yeah, you're right. To drive this home, they contrast that with the visuals of the real world. So let's watch that clip that you're talking about, Chris, where we move from Barbieland to the real world. There are a lot of visuals in this scene. There's a lot packed in. Like you said, the describer in the film can't get it in. There's no way I'm going to be able to get it in as well. So what I'm going to do is I'll give some pre-description, and then I'm going to drop a little bit. Rick's going to leave my microphone on for me so I can drop some description in while the clip is playing. But just to give you an advanced setup for this, Barbie and Ken are traveling from Barbieland to the real world, and they travel in a series of toy vehicles through very obvious set pieces. And these set pieces are kind of filmed like old-fashioned plays. The backgrounds are slow-moving paintings. The vehicles are often fake, like sometimes they're even just like plywood cutouts. And then in the sky behind them are objects like seagulls or planets hanging from visible strings. They actually keep these things on strings so that they look like a play or a puppet show or something like that. And then all the major action in that transition happens on a flat, two-dimensional plane moving from left toward the right. This is a composed artificial world of brilliant color and artificial perfection, right? And by the way, in every vehicle, Ken's always in the back seat, Barbie's always in the front seat, because Ken is behind Barbie. And then when they get to the real world, Barbie and Ken are wearing these outrageous neon spandex outfits, hot pink with accents in swirling neon blue, neon yellow, with like these bright neon yellow-green rollerblades, elbow and knee pads, and fanny packs. Totally extreme, like synthetic look. But for the first time in the real world, everything else is natural. There's real sand, real trees, a real sky. But compared to Barbieland, the colors are really muted, right? The sky is dull and overcast. No one's wearing bright clothes. Yeah, and so that's kind of the muted real world compared to Barbie and Ken. Even when they try and blend in, they wear these cowboy outfits. Tight pink bell bottoms and a matching pink vest for Barbie, and black and white fringes for Ken. There is going to be one little joke in here that I just don't have time to set up in the moment. So the joke is basically Barbie identifies the Supreme Court. She goes, "Oh, look, it's the Supreme Court." And what she's pointing at is a billboard that features all the beautiful women of the Miss Universe pageant lined up in their bikinis and sashes. And she thinks it's the Supreme Court of Barbieland. All right, so with all that pre-description, Rick, if you can play the clip, and I'm going to keep my mic on, and I'm going to do my best to add little bits of description along the way to help us keep pace.
And so Barbie and Ken set off on their adventure to the real world.
Drive in a pink convertible down a pink brick road. Riding in a pink boat with dolphins arching through the ocean, seagull flying behind them, on a rocket ship, pedaling a tandem bicycle through tulip fields, camping with the Barbie pink on a snowmobile, and rollerblading onto the beach.
Barbie?
Wow.
Yes!
As they rollerblade in their neon
Wow,
yellow
this is the real
rollerblades.
world.
Barbie, I told you there'd be beach.
Yeah.
Everyone stares at them.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on?
Give us a smile, Blondie.
Why are these men looking at me?
Yeah, they're also staring at me.
Oh, love that.
Wow.
I feel kind of ill at ease, like, I don't know the word for it, but I'm conscious, but it's myself that I'm conscious of.
I'm not getting any of that. I feel what can only be described as admired, but not ogled. And there's no undertone of violence.
Mine very much has an undertone of violence. Oh, look, a construction site. We need that good feminine energy. Ladies, yoo-hoo!
Oh, you got fries with that?
I said you had a hot body. Would you hold it against me?
Is that a mirror in your pocket?
Baby, you are an
I can see myself in your shorts.
I don't know exactly what you meant with all of those little quips, but I'm picking up on some sort of entendre, which appears to be double. And I would just like to inform you, I do not have a vagina. And he does not have a penis. We don't have genitals.
That's okay. Yeah, whatever. It's cool. Yeah.
I have all the genitals.
Jeez, you would think a construction site at lunchtime would be the perfect place for a little woman power, but this one was so male.
Everything's almost like reversed here.
Oh, look! The Supreme Court!
They're so smart.
Yeah.
Someone smacks Barbie on the backside, and she punches him in the nose. They get their photos taken and mugshots.
Me a leotard.
I love the elbow pads.
I think we should get some different clothes.
They put on their cowboy outfits.
We look great.
I love fringe.
Denim.
Hey, man.
Walk away from the store.
You guys got to pay for that stuff.
They take off running.
If you had to pick one clip that actually did a really good job of condensing all the messaging of the movie and to just squeeze it into, that's a really good clip to do that. That's very complicated.
There's so much going on, and from truly from a describer standpoint, it's impossible. You can't get all of those visuals in, which is why so grateful to be here in this space and able to do this, to dive into this stuff. Who else does this but VocalEye? This is fantastic. I'm so grateful to be able to do it.
Double thumbs up. So when you watched it with audio description, what were you aching to hear that they just didn't have time for?
I mean, all of that context about the glossy visual versus the dull muted visuals, all of that certainly. I mean, that's just the underlying thing of what's missing. And then there are lots of the visual details, like who's doing who's making the cat calls, who's eyeing them as they rollerblade down the street. The change in their expressions when Barbie starts, she rolls into the real world. She's really happy. She's beaming. She's so excited to be in the real world. But just that rolling down the boardwalk, the shift in her expression really quickly changes, right? Like the anxiety that creeps onto her face is real. And I mean, you can hear all of that in her voice. It's not that it's not clear. But as a describer, it's like, oh, like you do wish you had the opportunity to also back that up. But again, if you're a describer, you're going to be making a different choice. You're going to know, well, that message is coming across in the vocal performance. That's understood. So I'm going to instead go with some of the visual details that aren't being addressed. And so you just have to prioritize. That's what really description is so much about, prioritizing, right?
So we're going to talk about the characters in detail, and I want to kind of start with a conversation that we had in, just talking this through beforehand, which is, I just assume that Hollywood is always going to make the most beautiful people look the most beautiful they can and make everything look great and everything look beautiful, and people are just gorgeous, and that's the most gorgeous people possible are always going to be on screen in anything that Hollywood produces. But the talk about this movie was about how good looking the people were, like Ken and Barbie especially. And so you and I had a kind of complicated conversation about that. And so how do Ken and Barbie look gorgeous in a way that's remarkable even for Hollywood?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's true because yeah, everyone in Hollywood, you're not going to be in Hollywood if you're not attractive in some way, shape, or form. There is a perfection to the beauty that is not at everyone's taste, but it's hard to deny the perfection of it. I mean, let's start by if we just break it down with Barbie, that's probably the best way in because she personifies this idea, this version of perfection. So, Rick, if you've got that picture of Margot Robbie as stereotypical Barbie to bring up, that'd be great. The thing about trying to describe Margot Robbie as Barbie is she's so aesthetically perfect, and proper air quotes is appropriate for saying perfect. She's so perfect, she's almost difficult to describe because there's nothing unusual or interesting to describe. She's just perfect. If you imagine a list of all of the words that dolls like Barbie have taught us are the words that add up to conventionally beautiful, they apply, right? She is tall. She has long blonde hair. She has light skin tone. She's thin but has nice curves. She has a big, broad smile, wide eyes, with makeup that exaggerates her perfectly symmetrical features. There is no blemish, there is no wrinkle. She is absolutely radiant. Nothing is out of place. Everything about her outfit is coordinated, and she matches the environment that she's in. So her outfits and her makeup and her hair also work with the room that she is in and the people who are in the scenes with her. She is absolutely perfect in every way. She's kind of blandly beautiful. She's just there's no character to this beauty. She's just gorgeous. And in this movie, she also carries herself with a similarly perfect, slightly stiff body language to convey that doll-like quality. It's really quite subtle, but if you watch her hands throughout the film, the way she bends and uses her joints, her wrists in particular, it's kind of like her hands are posed at all times like a Barbie doll. Barbies have just one hand pose, and they are slightly posed. I think it's like a forefinger kind of touching the thumb just a little bit of a pose, pinky maybe up just a little bit. So in the image that Rick has put up on screen for us, she's wearing a pink and white gingham dress with thin straps tied with bows at the shoulder. The skirt on the dress is pleated, and she has white crinolines or petticoats underneath, and she is walking across the water in her pool because there's never any water in a Barbie pool. It's always fake. So she's just walking across the surface of the water. But that's the kind of perfection. It's just so unbelievably over the top. And that carries on with Ken, to be fair as well. We've got a picture of Ken here that Rick can bring up. Ken, played by Canada's own Ryan Gosling. In this movie, he is super buff. Light skin tone, but really tanned, like so tanned he's a little bit orange. Again, falsely tanned, falsely orange. His hair is this platinum blonde. It's worn with side part with swoopy bangs, and he's constantly dressed in outfits with unbuttoned tops. So the photo that we've got up here, he's wearing like light blue jeans and a sleeveless unbuttoned jean jacket with like sleeves cut off, and the jacket is open. He's got no shirt on, so this shows off his ridiculously sculpted physique. The exposed elastic of his underwear, which reads Ken instead of Calvin Klein, is kind of, cut across underneath his abs. There's a great line in the movie Crazy Stupid Love that Ryan Gosling did with Emma Stone. And the first time Emma Stone sees him bare chested, she's almost disgusted and she says, "Ugh, you look photoshopped." And that was in a movie where he wasn't playing a doll. Like in this movie, his abs, his biceps, they're almost ridiculous. Like they're just so silly. He's so, again, stereotypically perfect. Does that convey, like, does that, I don't know. Does
It's a
that convey
little
the
hard to
difference?
get. Yeah, it's a little hard to get. I think if like me, you're someone who's never had sight. I think that I'm trying to think of a tactile or auditory parallel, and I can't really. I think yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm getting it. I'm hearing your words, and I'm fully understanding them. But I think it's a experience of the eye that is hard
Yeah.
to empathize with if you haven't had it.
So I mean, the closest I can come with like an auditory comparison is like, have you ever heard a song that is perfectly played, but it has no soul? There's no grit to it. You're never even slightly off the rhythm. There's no gravel in the voice. Like it's just perfect, and it becomes
Oh, good
almost
one.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's almost bland.
Good
And in
one.
some ways, these characters, although I think a lot of people would, wouldn't mind running some fingers
Going on
down
a
the
date with them
abs of the
anyway.
wasp. Yeah, exactly. No one's kicking Ryan Gosling out of bed for eating crackers or being too perfect, right?
Auto-tuned. They're kind of like
Yeah, that's
auto-tuned.
right. That's the auto-tuned it is. And there are other characters worth describing because there's no time in the AD. So Alan, for example, I think we got a picture of Alan, Rick. Alan, played by Canada's own Michael Cera. He is an odd man for a very odd part. Alan has light skin tone. His hair is dyed an unnatural chestnut brown and worn in this awkward side part, and he's dressed exactly like his doll counterpart. So on screen now we've got a picture of Alan from the movie and Alan the doll. He's wearing this synthetic velour zip-up shirt with with horizontal pastel rainbow stripes and parted white collar. He's got on these stiff blue shorts. Everything about Alan looks uncomfortable. He's kind of pasty and he just looks so odd. And then there's Weird Barbie. We've got a picture of Weird Barbie as well. This is stereotypical Barbie that got played with too hard. Her hair got hacked up with scissors. Her face was drawn on with markers, and her leg joints are snapped and broken. So in the movie, she's played by Kate McKinnon. And of course, as an original stereotypical Barbie, she has light skin tone, blonde hair. She's tall and lean. But here, her hair is hacked up and spiky, and she's got a black circle drawn around one eye and a zigzagging red and blue lines that are across her forehead. And Weird Barbie often wears kind of ill-fitting, like slightly out of fashion pink clothes and mismatched accessories. So you can just see her puffy shoulders in the photo that we've got on screen here. But this is like a hot pink bridesmaid's dress with puffy sleeves and the splash of random 80s geometric pattern down one side. And Weird Barbie's constantly dropping into the splits because her leg joints are broken. So she always goes down into the splits, or she stands in the splits. Yeah, she's all bendy and her joints are broken. We've actually got a clip. This is just an extended clip of we heard a little bit about this in the trailer. This is all of the Barbies and Kens meeting on the pink plastic sands of the Malibu beach. No real setup is required here. This is just a lot of perfect Barbies, perfect Kens, and some mermaid Barbies as well, all saying hello. Because all of the Barbies, all of the Kens, even though each one is different, they are all still perfect. They really push the idea of diversity in the Barbies and Kens in this world. So each Barbie, each Ken has different hair texture, different skin tone, and has a different job, different body shape. But they are all in their own way perfect, perfect, perfect. So this is just a quick clip of all the Barbies and Kens saying hello on a pink plastic beach. Rick, take it away, my friend.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
I can.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
I got us both ice cream.
Cool.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Oh, hi, Alan.
There are no multiples of Alan. He's just Alan.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
There's a whole other evening to be had on this topic, but I'm just going to glance by it, which is that in the audio description, they do not reference skin tone ever. And I was a little disappointed by that. And I know it's a big topic in the world of audio description and amongst describers in different countries. But I was, glad to hear later that the diversity in skin tone, but in the audio description, that was a piece that they just chose. They chose not to. And you don't need to remark on it, JJ. I know it's a, controversial potentially. Yeah. But moving to the one of the other things we did talk about was the costumes, and again, something they don't have time for in the audio description to really explicitly talk about a lot of the costumes. But you told me something that really, I went, "Ugh." You can buy these costumes, you can order them in human sizes and wear some Barbie clothes. That's strange.
You have to remember that the entire movie, everything about this movie is a commercial. This is a commercial for the Barbie line, right? Yes, it's celebrating ideas of contemporary feminism. It's selling the Mattel version of feminism. Yes, it's looking at nostalgia and looking at childhood things, but it's all an ad for Mattel and Barbie. And so what they've done with the costumes is all of the costumes in the movie are either based on old costumes that you bought for your Barbie when you were a kid, or because sometimes they tweak them. Those are also costumes that you can now buy not only for your Barbie, but for you as well. If you go to the merch store, you can buy matching adult and doll costumes or props. So you and your doll can get dressed up in the exact same outfit that is reminiscent of the outfit that you had for your Barbie when you were a kid. Like it is deep commercialism at play here. But it's also, I mean, to be fair to the filmmakers, it is a very effective way of getting us to connect with these characters immediately, right? When you see Barbie walk on to the screen for the first time, and she's wearing a dress that you had for your own Barbie doll, you immediately connect with that character. So it's a good film technique as well. It's useful for that. And what they do with the costumes in this movie goes well beyond the merchandising. They use Barbie's outfits to convey her emotional state and her story arc. And there are lots of good costume designers who will do this in all kinds of movies, but it's really very, very effective in this movie. So, for example, we arrive in Barbieland. Barbie wakes up in her pink heart-shaped bed, which has pink sheets and a pink tufted clamshell headboard, and she starts her morning routine, right? When she sits up in bed, she's wearing a perfect baby pink pajama set, shorts and short sleeves, delicate pink material, cute lacy collar. This is very similar to the Slumber Party Barbie set released in 1965. This is a very young, very innocent look. This is the character's state of being as the movie begins, right? Young and innocent and pink. Then she goes to her wardrobe and there's an outfit all laid out for her, vertically, magically hanging on the wall, just the way a Barbie doll outfit comes in the package, just the way it did in that very first commercial that we saw at the beginning of the night, right? The outfit is pink and white. This is the pink and white gingham dress that we talked about, and she's got on a floral necklace, matching earrings that look like big pink pearls. And this look does two different things. First of all, this pink gingham dress is a pink homage to Dorothy's dress from The Wizard of Oz. Like you mentioned, there's a real parallel between The Wizard of Oz and Barbie, right? The character going on a journey of self-discovery in a magical land. Secondly, this kind of pink gingham dress with the slightly flared skirt is a very 1950s housewife look. And if you think about the portrayal of housewives in like 1950s advertising, the way we're told housewives looked and behaved in the 1950s, housewives were supposed to be happy and sweet and pretty, but blissfully unaware of the politics of their situation. So this look is conveying this state of being for Barbie at the beginning of the movie. And then as Barbie starts to feel a little bit weird, things are happening, and she goes to see Weird Barbie, her outfit changes. Rick, we've got a picture of Barbie in her blue mini dress with long sleeves. This is a kind of modish look. This is the outfit that Barbie's wearing when she goes to see Weird Barbie. It's a navy blue mini dress, long sleeves, white cuffs, white collar, white knee-high socks. This is a different silhouette from those 1950s flared skirts, right? That was hyper young, feminine pink. This is 60s mod style. Barbie is evolving from a naive doll into a real human, a real woman, and her fashions have evolved from the restrictive 1950s into the 1960s. And quite literally, Barbie has the blues. She is not wearing pastels. She's wearing solid, dark navy blue. It's the first time we've seen this on her. And then later, when Barbie goes into the real world, that clip we just watched, and they're roller skating on Venice Beach. Rick, I think we got a photo of that. Again, both are dressed in this hyper 1980s neon beachwear that we've already described. They're plastic characters in the real world. Their costumes are a visual manifestation of that character arc. Again, we're moving toward the modern era, starting in the 1950s through the 1960s. Now we're in the 1980s. I could go on, right? There's lots of examples of this. I think everyone gets the idea. It's worth mentioning, though, it's not just her clothes, it's her hair and her makeup, too. Over the course of the film, her hair goes from outrageous, these really big blonde wigs, to more natural hairstyles, straighter, thinner. In fact, by the end of the movie, you're just like, it's just Margot Robbie's hair. It starts off in blonde wigs, and by the end of the movie, it's her real hair. Thanks for putting that up, Rick. Appreciate it.
One of the things that we talked about, and I alluded to it earlier, and in watching it with friends, was that relaxing, what was described to me as the sort of visually, emotionally relaxing experience of looking at Barbieland, because it had these bright colors and it evoked the nostalgia of childhood. But there was a funny playfulness as well, right, to the way that the sets in Barbieland were done.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, they really wanted this to be tactile and real. They wanted all of us to get that feeling like this is exactly, if you go into a movie already feeling like, oh, I love this, like you've already, the filmmakers have already set themselves up for success because we're all already in love with the sets. You remember all of these things. So they really wanted it to feel like a giant version of the toys we already had, the toys we already knew. So Barbieland is the way they get to do this. This is where they're putting all of those toys and turning them into sets. So right at the beginning, I think it's even described in Izzy's trailer, you get an overhead shot of Barbieland, and it's revealed to be a coastal city that is encircled by a glowing heart shape. Outside of the heart shape, the land is barren. It's kind of dull in color, and inside, that's Barbieland. It's a pink dream where the water is an unnatural blue. The curving roads of Barbieland actually spell Barbieland in cursive text. And the dot at the top of the I in Barbie is a cul-de-sac. And that's where Barbie and her closest friends live. And they actually built a full-size cul-de-sac on a soundstage. Rick, I think we've got a picture of that. In interview clips, the actors all talked about the feeling of being in Barbieland. Like there was no imagination required. They were costumed Barbies and they were inside giant Barbie houses. So here's the picture we've got up here is like the pink brick road leading to a cul-de-sac with a series of pink houses all around it. And the Barbie dream homes here are kind of based on mid-century modern architecture of Palm Springs specifically. So flat, expansive surfaces, lots of kind of stacked open-sided boxes and flat roof lines. And again, made to look like synthetic materials, glossy plastic pink. And most of the rooms on most of the buildings only have two walls with the other side, the other walls open. And this is because as a kid, you needed access to the inside of the rooms. All the Barbie houses were open, so you could play with them. You could put your dolls in there. So that's how they made their houses in the movie. They've got open walls, so they're just these open rooms everywhere. And then the details. So for details, they often used giant decals, so stickers. When Barbie opens her fridge in her kitchen, there are some props in that kitchen. So there's like a milk carton in there that she can pull out. It's a real prop milk carton. But the rest of the fridge, the inside of the fridge, is a solid wall with decals, stickers of eggs and pop cans and yogurt tubs and fruit bowls. The toaster is a real prop. It's a pink toaster, but the dishwasher is a flat sticker on a cabinet under the kitchen counter. Again, this is exactly what our toys looked like. So we are getting that experience. Our toy has been turned into a giant Barbie house. The pool has no water. It's a glossy blue flat hard surface. This is because there's no water in any Barbie toy, right? If Barbie goes in the shower, there's no water coming down. You just pretend that there's water. But it's also because in the visual design, you water is a natural element. Natural is too real. If you have things like soil or plants or real water or real fire in Barbie land, it would break the illusion of falseness. So all natural elements like lawns, trees, campfires on the beach, all of those are made intentionally artificial. And that's how all of Barbieland is. Everything in Barbieland is a toy blown up to human scale.
There's a word that has probably been used more than any other word so far this evening, which is not iconographic. It's pink. We make jokes
Pink.
about we always use iconic. But pink is just unavoidable in discussions of Barbie and discussions of the movie. And it's worth kind of diving into that beyond just the Barbie phenomenon. Why did Mattel choose pink? Why is pink so associated with Barbie and femininity? And as a blind person and someone who never saw color, it's a little mysterious to me. So can you give us some sort of cultural background about pink?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Like everything in Barbie Land is pink. The houses, the cars, the roads, street lamps, dresses. There's even in a passing shot of like the Empire State. No, it's the Statue of Liberty. It's pink in Barbie Land. Like everything is pink. And they used a very specific tone of pink. It's Pantone 219 is the official color name. And they bought and used so much pink paint to paint everything on their set that Pantone ran out of the color. There was an international shortage of Pantone 219 pink color
Oh
because
my
they used
gosh.
so much. Yeah. So a history of the pink, it really is kind of fascinating. So in Europe, the US and Canada, yeah, obviously can't speak to the entire world, but in Europe, US and Canada, pink is currently strongly associated with things like sensitivity and sweetness, romance, and femininity. But that hasn't always been the case, right? The pink has undergone lots of shifts in its meaning and association. So the color that we now call pink has actually appeared in Western literature for centuries. The Odyssey, for example, written by Homer in 800 BCE, Homer wrote of a rosy-fingered dawn. And pink was found, of course, in beautiful, delicate flowers. So between sunrises and flowers, pink had a calming, sweet association. In the Middle Ages, and then in the Renaissance, pink started to be used in religious paintings. Often baby Jesus would be passing like a pink flower to the Virgin Mary. That was painted quite routinely. And of course, you can imagine that they're trying to evoke the sweetness of this gesture from baby Jesus to the Virgin Mary, and of course the link to nature and dawn. That would make some sense. And then shades of light pink started being used to paint people's faces and hands, rosy pink flesh. Now, it should be said that this isn't necessarily an obvious color choice. 15th century Europeans were not actually rosy pink people. In many regions, actual skin tones would have featured more browns and ochres, but in oil paintings, painting a pink undertone, that comes off as bright and clean and fresh. And since many paintings were of religious figures, those attributes were desired. Later, pink had waves of being associated with strength and war and masculinity. And of course, red is the color of blood. But that's not always easy to achieve with fabric dyes. So, what often happened was you would attempt to dye something the color red, but you would get something that was closer to a bold pink color. So that was the color worn by soldiers in some eras. Then in the 19th century, early 19th century, soldiers in England did have red uniforms, but boys wore pink because boys are just small men, and a small man, that's like, a boy is to man what pink is to red, was, I guess, the idea there. So soldiers would wear red, and boys playing soldiers might wear pink. Later in the 19th century, pink takes its turn toward our association with femininity, right? Men who wanted to be seen as sober and serious wore dark colors, solid colors. So women were sold the opposite look, light pinks and other pastels. And then there were innovations in dyeing and chemistry, and that meant that new kinds of pinks, some hot pinks, and even like really garish pinks, made their way onto the market, and that added some boldness and some depth to kind of pink's association with femininity. Then, of course, things get very dark for pink in the 1930s and 40s. In Nazi Germany, people accused of homosexuality were forced to wear pink triangles as identifiers in concentration camps. Of course, this symbol has been very boldly repurposed by the queer community now. And then we move toward our very modern associations with pink. So Mamie Eisenhower, oh my God, I'm going to say that the third time and get it right. Mamie Eisenhower wore a pink gown to the presidential inauguration in 1953. That caused quite a stir. And then Jackie Kennedy wore pink as a high fashion color. Marilyn Monroe wore pink in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Pink was hot. Pink was in fashion. And of course, as we all know, fashion is about simultaneous trend following and trend setting. So when pink is hot, it's because it's hot in the culture at the same time as you're being sold pink by fashion industry. But I have to say, like, there's really no question that the Barbie movie has been a massive high watermark for the selling of the color pink, right? Pink clothes, pink bedding, pink foods, pink buildings. Chris, in the neighborhood that we live in, I don't know if we've talked about this, in the last year, in 2023, there was a cake shop and a hair salon in our neighborhood that both went pink. The hair salon went pink on the outside. They painted the entire 3-story building hot pink on the outside. And then the cake shop went all pink on the inside of the building. And a friend of mine was telling me that he walked by the hair salon the other day, and he said there was a bulldog in a pink dress sitting inside the pink hair salon. And he's like, that's a strange pink prop. So, and these days, right, these color trends are really magnified because of our online world. All of these things, these pink buildings, these pink bulldogs, whatever, these things get photographed and then they get pumped out on social media. So the visuals really get magnified by social media.
I'm curious, walking down a city street, would it be surprising to see a man wearing that color of pink?
Not truly not at all. These days it's kind of anything goes, especially when it comes to ideas of quote unquote femininity and masculinity. Like we are living in a totally different era than even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. When I was a kid, yeah, And that's not 10 or 15 years ago. That's more like 30, 40 years ago. You would have, a boy would be teased because they wore a pink shirt. Now it is just in my universe anyway, in any of the spaces I tend to inhabit, everyone's wearing all kinds of things. But that's not to say that pink doesn't still have those associations, right? Like we're just not as worried about a quote unquote femininity being attributed to someone who looks quote unquote masculine, right? That's what's, I think, less jarring. But there are, when, like you talked about going to see the movie when there weren't that many people in the theater. I went kind of mid-run. I had to wait for a while because I actually couldn't get a ticket for a while. It was so busy. But when I went, there were tons of people in the theater wearing pink. All kinds of folks, male folks who are male presenting, folks who are female presenting, groups of people wearing like pink power suits, some people wearing like pink like spandex that look like they were on their way to an aerobics class circa 1985. Some people wearing really slinky pink gowns, a few people wearing like pink scrubs like they were doctors or something. Yeah, like all kinds of pink all throughout the theater.
There was some talk here in Canada about I don't know, photo op is too dismissive to say, but our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took his kids to the Barbie movie, and I don't even know why this became a media issue. I just read about it somewhere. And was there pink involved there? Were they wearing pink?
Oh, they might have been. I don't remember, but I mean, it would be completely in keeping.
Right.
The first time Justin Trudeau went to the Pride Parade, which was a moment I happened to be describing. I was describing the Pride Parade when Trudeau was there, and he was wearing like a kind of a salmon pink linen shirt as he walked down the parade route, and everyone was squirting water guns. So he was soaked. So Justin Trudeau walked toward me in this wet pink linen shirt, and I had to describe him. I'm holding a microphone, looking right at him, and I'm like,
I
okay,
can hear you.
a very handsome man with a swoop of chestnut brown hair and pink linen shirts, wet, sticking to his chest, is walking to. And of course, everyone knew because the crowd had been going crazy. So I built it up as much as I could just to have a little bit of fun with it. But so that would very much be in keeping for Trudeau.
Okay, what about in like a legislature or a boardroom? Would you see a man or a woman in pink?
Good question. I mean, to be fair, I don't spend that much time in boardrooms, but I think certainly like wearing a pink shirt under as part of a suit, absolutely. Maybe a pink blazer or something like that. Probably not a hot pink top to bottom suit. That would probably be pretty bright. But having elements of pink, definitely in 2023 when it is the color of the season. Or if you're in a business situation where you are standing at a podium, for example, at a conference, then you might actually wear a pink power suit or something like that.
A man too?
That would be pretty bold. But again, like the rules are different. Like the rules really are different. So I'm gonna take a stab at it and say, maybe if depending on your industry, depending on how old you are, it wouldn't be out of the question.
Would Ken wear pink?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh boy, Ken goes through it in this movie. He just can't figure it out. He tries on that patriarchy, and it just It just does not work for him. Poor Ken. Uh,
Ah,
th-
oh, poor
Ken
Ken.
in yeah, instead of wearing pink, I mean Ken definitely would wear pink, but Ken's patriarchy outfit I think was my personal favorite. They didn't describe that in the film very in
No,
detail,
I
did
don't
they?
think so. What was his patriarchy outfit?
So he goes to the real world, he sees the patriarchy in action, he sees clips of men, and he sees men in business settings and in gyms and in all sorts of getting out of their Hummers and like all of their very masculine things, and he mashes that up with his existing Barbie and Ken aesthetic. And so the outfit that he comes up with to represent like the patriarchy is this floor length white fur coat. Um like open, of course, because you got to be able to see those abs underneath. Um he's got like a black leather vest with fringes, black fringe on under that, and he wears a headband tied around the top of his head. It's just so absurd that like this understanding of manliness of the patriarchy is just it's very sweet. It's
Where does the
sweet.
fur fit in? They did say, now I remember they said mink coat, and I
Yeah.
really scratched my head about that because I didn't understand what that signified, where that fit anywhere.
Yeah, so that it's an interesting one. So I mean, there are different associations with fur in different eras, much like with pink. So there was a time when a fur would be, you hunt an animal, you kill an animal, you wear an animal. That is a very masculine
Ah,
hunting thing to do. It would also be, there would be a period where fur would be very regal. A regal thing to wear. You add that to then, I think specifically in the movie, they flash a couple of images of Sylvester Stallone wearing a mink coat, which is again a little bit goofy, but there is this kind of again high fashion, like you're mixing the rugged with the soft and sensual. And so all of those things come together to be there's a version of extreme hypermasculinity in a fur coat on a buff, otherwise naked body
oh.
that I think they're kind of going for with that.
Ken is the again, we could do a whole other evening talking about the politics and the messaging, but there's a way in which Ken symbolizes the role of women
Mm.
in the patriarchy because there's this great line where the narrator at the beginning goes, and this is Ken. He only exists when Barbie looks at him. Just
Yeah,
love that line. And
yeah.
so there's a way in which the subtleties of Ken, there's a lot to be said about them because he's sort of tussling with finding his own sense of identity in the same way that women have had to do living in patriarchal culture. And I think you have a behind the scenes clip of Ken talking about his Kenness. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we've got the final, the big I'm Just Ken number in this film. We found a great version of it. So it's not just the last scene of the movie. It kind of mashes up the last, like the big I'm Just Ken, the Ken battle on the beach, the song, and also some behind the scenes footage. Because you're right. I mean, Ken, he does in some ways represent he says explicitly in that clip we already watched, it's like the real world is reversed
Mhm.
from what Barbieland is. And they, from things like Ken is always in the back of every vehicle that they travel in. When they're taking their mug shots in that clip, Barbie holds up a little nameplate in front of her so that for her mugshot it says Barbie. Ken holds his little nameplate in front of him and it says and Ken, because Ken only exists as an
Mhm.
accessory to Barbie. This
Mhm.
is this is the woman losing her name and becoming Mr. and Mrs. his name, right? This is and Ken.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you're right. I think that Ken does represent. And so this kind of final clip that we're going to play this is the high note for me of the whole movie. The I'm Just Ken song is so wonderful. Academy Award nominated song. Yeah, visually there's a lot going on. We're going to let it we're going to let it play uninterrupted. So yeah, the video that we found here cuts between behind the scenes footage, clips from the film. There are shots in the recording studios where the musicians are actually playing the music and putting it together on the on the board. There are little clips on the set. So Greta Gerwig laughing during the takes and laughing behind the cameras. And then the scene in the movie, the I'm Just Ken scene, is actually several different chapters and set pieces. So the first one is the Ken battle on the beach, all the beautiful Kens, including Ryan Gosling in that patriarchy outfit, battling on the pink plastic sands of the beach, and they're fighting with play sports equipment like plastic tennis rackets and lacrosse rackets and tennis balls and frisbees. And then you get the big dance number. So you cut back and forth between rehearsals and the final film of this big dance numbers where all of the Kens wear black pants and black t-shirts. It's on a big open sound stage with a powder blue backdrop and pink and white striped floor. And this is a dance-off fight between Ken number 2, Canada's own Simu Liu, and Ryan Gosling, and all of the Kens are dancing along with them. And it's a great big Broadway style dance number. And it's kind of made all the more charming because a lot of the men are dancers, but some of the men aren't. Some of the men are just beautiful Hollywood people. So to quote the pastel tie-dyed fleece hoodie that Ken wears at the end of the movie, some of these dancers are just kind of, they're good enough at dancing. They're really kind of good Ken-enough at dancing, as his sweater says. So let's kind of end on the high note of I'm Just Ken, the behind the scenes music video. Rick, if you've got that one, sock it to us.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
That's big and bold. That's big and bold. We could go on and on. There's so much to say, but we want to make sure that there's time for Q&A as well. So I think maybe we should try and move into that. So if you have a question or comment, raise your hand, and I believe Lindsay will be keeping track of that and call out to people who have a hand raised. I know we have some describers in the space too, so we very, very happy and eager to hear from you or from description users, anyone with a comment or a question.
And you're absolutely right, Chris. Like, just like the describers who created the description for the film, like I feel like, oh, I didn't even mention, how could I not have mentioned this? Or I didn't even, so much. The visual details in this movie are just outrageous.
There's such different reactions to it, even though there was only 8 people in the theater when I went there. The people behind me, there was sort of a mixed generational group, and frankly, the dance number at the end, it was well described, but I was really bored because to me, I was all about the gender politics and the underlying messaging, and I was having a real existential, like I took the whole thing really seriously. And at the end of the movie, I was sort of collecting myself and collecting my thoughts and getting ready to go, and this young lady behind me said, yeah, the dance number was pretty cool. That was my favorite part. And I just had to like give myself a check and go, okay, like not everyone thinks the way you do, because for that person, that was the most entertaining thing, was the dance number.
Oh, the music is so fantastic. I see we've got Megan's got a hand up.
Thanks, JJ.
Yeah, go ahead, Megan. We're not hearing you. Perhaps you are still muted. Oh, I hear.
Wonder if we're having that issue again. And Megan, if you want to.
Can you hear now?
Oh, there you are.
Gotcha.
Yes,
we got you.
Now. Good.
Yay!
Finally. Okay. Well, I really love that, especially with the "I'm Just Ken," and I really liked it when you talked about the finger poses. I imagined myself actually doing that. I'm like, wow, that's what it was like, the forefinger and the thumb and the pinky up. I thought, okay, throw a finger down and the pinky up and just the thumb and forefinger. I'm like, yes, now I know, right? I'm like, now I know the pose. Like, whoa. Now, were there only two Canadians playing in the movie, or how many Canadians were there? And then how many British people? There was only one with a
So that's
narrator.
a good question. So I mean, I think the top three male actors in this film, I think, are Canadian. So Ryan Gosling as Ken number 1, Simu Liu as Ken number 2, and Alan, all Canadians. So we're well represented on the Ken and Alan side of things. I don't know about any.
Margot Robbie's Australian.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
read.
that's
I had
right.
no idea because I didn't. I know, right? When you hear her voice, she
way!
really acts it well. She sounds so California American. It made me want to go look her up on YouTube just to hear her speak naturally because I was impressed when I heard that.
Oh
But,
my goodness! And
I
were
know.
any from Britain or from England?
The
That's a good
narrator.
Yes.
Narrator. So there's a narrator, not the audio description, but there's an actual narrator of the film who is kind of witty and a bit surprising at times. And who is it? JJ?
Is that Helen Mirren?
Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
She does a great, she does. She's British, clearly. Well, she sure sounds it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But also Margot Robbie. Wow. And the rest were American except Margot Robbie and Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
And the three Kens.
Yeah, lots of good Canucks in this film.
All the good-looking men, right? I wonder if the clothing store has his zip-up velour, because I'd wear that with the rainbows across. I'm interested in that.
Such a nice. I think it was like the Halloween costume of the year too. Like going to Halloween. Come on.
And where was the movie filmed? Like in Los Angeles or Venice Beach or where was it filmed? Like I know the set, but where was the set filmed?
That's a good question. I think most of it was filmed on soundstage, and I think it was in California, but I might be wrong about that. But I know it was filmed all on a set. Like they built that cul-de-sac, they built that beach. These are huge old sound stages that they would have filmed musicals on. Like you needed stages that big to film these things. So they did that, and then I think they actually went to Venice Beach for the outdoor on Venice Beach location.
I love that. What part of California?
Yeah.
What part of California?
Venice Beach. So that's is that LA area? Southern California anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan.
They certainly made their money back, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. We've got another hand raised. It's a phone number ending in 223. Not a name on that one, so there you go.
If you are 223, unmute. We are not hearing you yet. 6 on your phone should do that. No, still not hearing you, unfortunately.
I was having pain trying to do that. Sorry.
Oh, there you are. It's Karen.
We got you.
Yeah, no, it's. I'm trying to punch the phone and my hand is falling asleep and it's goofy. But anyway, it's Karen in Toronto. The Malibu Barbie commercial really made me laugh because I remember that commercial. In fact, my very first Barbie was a Malibu Barbie. It was a gift from a friend for my birthday. My friend Gwen Justice when I was like 8. So it was neat to see that again. It's the other people have asked about the music. I was going to ask you, I guess, 2 things really. One, whether or not the music properly conveys what is supposed to be the emotional connection in terms of the soundtrack. I mean, obviously there are a lot of things that are just kind of, I'm a pop star, I want to be a part of it. But I'm wondering how successfully the score is used and the songs are used to actually, put people in the characterization, as it were.
That's a great question. That's a great question. So, I mean, sometimes in musicals you have song lyrics where you are directly saying you're moving the plot along, like like it's almost like dialogue, and the tone is matching. They didn't do that so often in this movie. There is at the beginning of the film, the one song that gets played twice and the lyrics are changed, where the first time it's Barbie, like, everything's wonderful, my life is fantastic, everything's great. And then the second time they play the song, the lyrics are completely the opposite. The lyrics have flipped. So I thought that was kind of a clever way of conveying Barbie's state of mind and her confusion with the world, and her just feeling so out of sorts, out of place, because everything is on the surface looks the same, but everything to Barbie feels different. So I thought that was a really good musical way of conveying that. And then some of the other songs, like for this one, I'm Just Ken. For me, I really liked the big musical, like the Broadway musical style of it. I thought that was very much in keeping with all of the visuals we've described. But that's really interesting. Chris, what did you think? Like,
There was
how
one moment that was so jarring to me in the theater, which is where she's driving in the car and the song that comes on big and bold is Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls.
Yeah.
And I felt this moment of shock and then betrayal. I'm like, wait, you can't co-opt that awesome song by those groovy lesbians and put it in a Barbie movie. Like, wait, you can't do that. I love that song and I sing that song all the time. That's not Barbie. And that was very jarring. And I sort of got used to it. And they did it a couple of times. It's sort of the road song. And
that's
in
right.
the end, the female characters from the real world, the mother and daughter, end up singing it with Barbie. And then I was all in. I'm like, but that moment of
I
musical.
wondered about that because see, there's a lot of not. Freda had talked about her desire to nod to Gene Kelly, to nod to the whole dance scene in Dance United Way or Saturday Night Fever, and you touched on the Sylvester Stallone with the fur coat thing and that kind of dance. But I finally heard What Am I Made For on the Grammys the other night. And I'm still trying to picture how that gets worked into this context that makes it actually give the audience that emotional connection.
Yeah.
If it works that way. And sometimes film songs work that powerfully. Sometimes film songs are stuck at the end.
Yes.
And so, I've not seen the film yet. I'm not exactly sure how it flows together.
Yeah.
Did you have a second question, Karen?
Yeah, I did. I mean, you keep talking about how badly the film was described, and I keep wondering why it was so badly described.
No, it's not. No. That's a misunderstanding. It's not badly described. It's a problem that there's not enough time for all the things to be described. I actually thought it was very well described within the boundaries of what they had time for. It's more an issue that there's so much visually happening in the movie and so much context that it's not possible to have a describer fill it in. So no, I actually feel the description was very well done. It's just that there wasn't enough time for all the things to be said.
Well, let's see, that's not a description issue. There are people who have visually seen the film that have that problem.
Oh, totally.
I keep running into articles where they try to capture all of the Easter eggs and all of the visual things because there's so many of them that even visually you can't keep track of. I mentioned at the start of this, I've not managed to see the film because Cineplex doesn't provide audio description in a proper way at all. But that seems to be, I don't think that's necessarily an audio description thing. I think
it's
that there's so much stuff packed into the film, even visually, you can't keep track of all the things that are going on.
No, that's absolutely the case. There are like nods to cinematic history, for example. Like there are the number of allusions to other because this is a meta movie, there are so many nods to other films, like the opening sequence, The Dawn of Barbie, is a shot for shot remake of The Dawn of Man from a 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's
Yes.
that's packed in there. The Matrix. Would you like to take the pink high heel, or would you like to take the Birkenstock sandal? Red pill or blue pill from the Matrix. There's even a very specific, it's one shot. Like it's literally, it took a second and a half of Alan, a zoom in. It's called was a push zoom on Alan on the beach when Ken bonks into a wave and knocks himself out. And they do this push zoom in on Alan, which is a reference to a single shot in the movie Jaws that takes place on the beach in Jaws that just goes by in a flash. And only if you're kind of a film fan do you even have a chance at drawing the connection between the beach scene in Barbie and the beach scene in Jaws because of this one push scene. It's amazing. And you're right, like there's just so much of this stuff that description, no description, you know, it's so easy for this stuff to pass by because there's just so much of it.
I'm conscious of the
Yeah,
time, and
yeah.
we like to be very respectful of our
Yes,
guests'
of course.
time.
Thank
And
you,
so
Grace.
maybe
Lovely,
we have,
lovely thing.
do we have time for, is there maybe one more question? Do you think? Is there a raised hand, JJ?
We don't have another raised hand at the moment, but if anyone wants to raise a hand, we do have time.
We have time for one more question. Well,
here we go. Sharon?
oh, go ahead, Sharon.
Hi, so I'm curious, JJ, because I'm in New York. Were you talking about the Cooper Hewitt? So I know it's off topic, but can I ask what you're doing there? Is that allowed?
Yeah, sure. I'll just really quick. I was doing some description for some of their online videos. So they did a lot of videos on I think it's the Design at Home series and the Design Dictionary series. So it's a number of the videos that they've got online that I've been working on the description for. I think those will be posted soon.
Oh, that was very interesting. All right. Well, you'll have to let us know if you're any New York City trips planned.
Oh, absolutely. I love New York City. It is one of my favorite places to be. One of these days I want to do just a walk around description there. Just go with the microphone and be on a live Zoom call with Christine, and the two of us can have a description rich conversation.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? That would
What a podcast that would make.
Come on, I'm in.
Great. Oh, yeah. That would be terrific. Well, great. Well, thank you. No, but the movie was terrific. It was so interesting to hear. You know, I think that you can probably listen to this so many times because, like you said, there's so much happening. It's hard to know what to describe, you know, right? How they picked what to pick.
Yeah, it really is. It's a constant balancing act in prioritizing, and you've got to let some things fall to the side, which is it's always difficult. It's always difficult.
And especially when like everybody, right, has the same name, right? It's all Ken or Barbie.
Oh yeah, that's really true. And as soon as the movie started, it's funny, I hadn't thought about that when I was watching it on my own or in the theater without the description. The second it started with the description, I thought, oh, how are they going to do this?
That's complicated.
Everyone's named Ken. And you don't want, especially if you're not talking skin tone and you're not, you know, like, how are you going to identify? You're taking away another easy way to identify, but it would be a kind of a crass way to identify one Barbie from another or one Ken from another. Really good point, Sharon. Really good point. I do notice we also have one more hand, Sheila. What do you think,
JJ?
Chris?
If you have time, I think we're okay.
I can be here. Sheila, if you've got a question, thanks for that, Sharon. And Sheila, you've got the floor if you can unmute.
We're not hearing you yet. I'm sure you're trying. I know that feeling.
Oh.
Scramble.
I think we lost Sheila, or the hand went down anyway.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
there
we
you
got
are.
you.
Yes.
Okay. I was just kind of thinking like it's a typical place for a construction worker when she was passing the construction site.
Yeah.
How they were, just making gestures to her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to me, it was just like a typical construction site. And it made sense because you know how construction workers will say something, even if they're so busy, they will look up and see a woman going by.
It's true. It was a very
I thought that was
cliche.
kind of. It is, and it was kind of cute that they put that in there, like a typical construction site
Very
that
easy.
she's going by.
Yeah, very
And I just thought it was something relatable, yes, instead of like, the Barbie world, but here's something we can relate to,
Yes,
That's
exactly.
what I thought. I don't know if anybody want to say anything on that, but I thought that was kind of,
The movie did that very well. It took commonplace things in the real world and was sort of highlighting them through this lens of Barbie, who has not been raised with patriarchal expectations, and so she's kind of seeing it with a naivety, and I think the movie does that very well.
Yeah, and in Ken, in that moment when they're at the construction site, very quickly picks up on the fact that he should have all the genitals. Like he just knows from the
He
tone
better
of this
have them, even if he doesn't.
I have all the genitals.
I've got them.
I've got them. Yeah, he knows enough to lie. He can't get the lie right, but he picks up on the social cues that he should have.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
It's Nancy. Sorry, I couldn't get
Nancy.
back, and I had to get back because I couldn't raise my hand. Well, I'm gonna say something. My sister went to Germany, and they were like Barbie dolls. They had Barbie dolls when we were kids. We had everything. So they went to Germany, and this guy fell in love with them. They got him like looking like Barbie doll. The Indra was wearing her quartet, and Marlene with a red-haired girl, and there's East Indian with blue eyes. This Barbie doll looked identical like my sister. She brought it back to Canada, and they were saying, "Oh my God, Indra, it's all in Barbie doll," and that brought me back when you guys were saying all different kind of styles. I'm East Indian, Marlene white, and it was so beautiful for having the show. But my son and his girlfriend did not like it because they're not into Barbie doll, but the music was beautiful, and I loved how you guys described it today. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Oh, what a lovely way to end. And so, to be respectful of JJ's time, we are going to wrap up the specific discussion of Barbie, and we will stop the recording.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.